We can get started. I want to welcome everybody to this first listening tour session in Clarksburg. You should have in front of you a listening tour agenda handout, some surveys and some other material which I'll explain after the delegates welcome you to the session. But I'd like to introduce House Speaker who's with us tonight to welcome you all. Tim.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. I'm so proud to be here in Harrison County. Selfishly, since I'm the speaker, I wanted to start it here in Harrison County. I hope no one minds, but if you do, we'll worry about it next year. But when I was elected speaker by my peers, I felt that it was important that we focus on small business growth and entrepreneurial growth here in West Virginia, because I didn't feel like enough was being done to try and promote that. But part of promoting small business growth is to do more listening than talking. And so we want this to be a very meaningful experience, and we have 10 other cities we're going to visit around the state of West Virginia, and hopefully this will become an ongoing process. And of course, we'll see some common themes probably at each stop, but each one of you have a variety of different backgrounds, different skill sets, different experiences, different businesses you're involved in, and it's our hope that you will share with us. We have some folks here who are going to share with you some successes they've had, but also share with you the hurdles they've encountered, some of which they've been able to overcome, some of which they've not been able to overcome. And it's our goal tonight to learn from you what some of those hurdles might be that we as a legislative body can address and hopefully remove for you and help small businesses and entrepreneurs flourish. Some of your concerns and hurdles might be a municipal hurdle that we can't do anything about. Maybe it's the local municipality, or maybe something the county is doing or not doing that's preventing you from succeeding as much as you otherwise would and could succeed. So, but we want this to be a very meaningful learning experience. Many times elected officials go around the state, have town hall meetings, and it's really more about them and less about what your thoughts are. We want this to be a very meaningful event. You have some documentation in front of you, so we want you to not be hesitant or shy about sharing your thoughts and concerns with us, because that's how we learn.
Good evening. My name is Mike Kwasniewski. I'm with the Charm Farm down in Randolph County, and I'd like to start with a success story. We're not entirely successful in it yet, but the ball has been rolling, and it pertains to slaughtering chickens. So that's one aspect of my business. I process free-range birds on the farm. And over the last couple years, I've run up against the on-farm limit, which is 1,000 birds. That can be quite a bit in the summer, but once you get in the routine of doing 200 a week, it doesn't seem like that much. And the demand is out there for more, and the policymakers, you all have helped. You've seen this bill for the 20,000 bird exemption come before you, and it's passed the House and the Senate, and it's now in the judiciary review. So thank you all for that. And that brings up, I guess as a farmer, an aspect of the economy here in West Virginia that hasn't been touched on yet. And it's us small farmers, and I've got some other colleagues in the room. And I want you all to keep in mind when you see laws come through that you can't compare us apples to apples, West Virginia to Iowa. We're not limitless cornfields. We're hollers and hard scrabble. And you gotta, when you see these laws come through, say the poultry exemption, there's been some meat processing laws pertaining to rabbits. There's been some raw milk regulation to go through. Take a perspective of the small landowner who's paying property tax, who's got 40 acres, maybe tillable. That's a good plot of ground here in the state. Think of how can a business be developed on that small acreage, say anywhere from 1 to 50 acres. And what can you do as a legislature to catalyze that? So don't look, and our Commissioner of Ag, he's really gotten on board with the local food. He's talking a little less about Idaho and Wisconsin and a little bit more about West Virginia. And that's great. I mean, I think you'll see Bridgeport Conference Center's hosted the very vibrant Bridgeport Farmers Market. And I'm sure everyone in this room has had some encounter with local food, and it's really becoming a vibrant part of this economy. And we need to capitalize that and really bolster that as much as we can. A couple things, health insurance, that's critical. I'll be hiring my first full-time employee in about 3 weeks. And that's something I strive to have. But it is limiting when nothing changes, when you get excited for the hype that's out there. Another thing is rural broadband. I think we've had a bit of a kerfuffle with the federal funds, but let's not forget about that. It's not the kind of business that you can set up on like cable internet and three-phase power. There's extra infrastructure that goes into starting a farm because it isn't conveniently located downtown. And so I think that is all. Just keep us in mind as farmers. There's I know a few of you. I see Mr. Evans back there. So I know there's a few of us in the room here. So don't forget about us when you see these laws come through and recommendations.
My name's Matt Hinkle. I'm from the Hinkle Farm in Canaan Valley, West Virginia. And I thank you so much for the 20,000 bird rule change. That is, I don't know, if you don't understand, talk to us. Talk to somebody at a farmer's market this summer, what that could possibly mean in gross income for a farm. To reiterate what Kathy said earlier, small businesses are defined as less than 100 employees. Small farms by the USDA are defined as less than $500,000 in sales. I have no idea how many large farms we have in West Virginia. I'm sure we're all small farms, but a lot of us are really small farms aspiring to be bigger. But there's a lot of positive momentum with the local food movement and the small farm movement in this state. Just to the east of us, based in Barber County, we have what's called the Tigard Valley Growers Association. It's a cooperative for educational purposes for farmers in our region. Mike's a part of it, I'm a part of it, and there's probably 20 different farms represented in that organization. Again, stop in, talk to us. Talk to us at the farmers markets. We are all different. Mike's less than 30 miles from me. His farm's completely different from mine. We are not like Iowa. We're not like Ohio. You don't see acres and acres of corn and soybeans. We have pigs and cows and tomatoes and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, thank you for your support, and I'm not even going to complain about regulations.
I run a small family farm just outside of town, and one of the things that concerns me is the regulations for agriculture and food in general, because we are the foundation of creating food before it even goes to any factory processing center. Some of the regulations that concerns me is about raw milk. Raw milk is hotly debated in a lot of different circles. I understand there's some bills right now, and I would encourage passing those in support of the raw milk. That's going to help us folks at the entry level who are trying to farm and get this product to folks that want it, and it's also going to help those who actually want the product to get it and not have to go to another state in order to get that. Poultry slaughter exemption is another concern. Currently, there's a limit of 1,000 chickens per year for a farm to be able to slaughter on site. If they raise those animals and end up selling them in their community, they have a limit of 1,000. So I would encourage you to increase that number as well. I think there's some legislation right now to increase that to 25,000. Several other states have that limit. And I would like to see us get to that limit as well. Again, that's going to help those of us who are small. If you raise 1,000, 25,000 chickens, you're not making a lot of money. on that. So anything that you can do extra is going to help you to add additional income to a small business already. So we're diversifying our business, and that's what I specialize in. A lot of the folks that I know as small farmers around diversify in different operations. One of the things that I am diversified in also is raising hogs. Now, I don't raise a whole lot of hogs. A lot of folks that I know do raise a small amount. One thing that would help us, while I could raise 100 hogs a year, I probably wouldn't make any money at raising any of those hogs. It's really a low-limit business. However, if I was allowed to slaughter those same hogs because an individual came to me and wanted me to slaughter it rather than haul it 50 or 100 miles up the road to a processing facility, now we're giving that money to somebody else who specializes just in slaughter, and that's money that it's a job that I'm capable of doing, but because of the strict regulations on getting into the slaughter business, I'm not able to do that. Just to get an entry-level facility, I would need to invest about $150,000 in the facility. Well, I don't have that. I better specialize in that type of business, and then I'm not diversifying in the other things that I'm interested in doing as well. We need to focus on, if we're worried about food safety, then let's worry about the not the equipment and the facility, but the actual sanitation of the products that we're producing. Let's take bacterial samples, for instance, on the equipment that we are using, rather than specify that we have to use certain equipment that is prohibitively expensive for a small entry-level facility. On processing foods, things like your smoked meats, your hams, your bacons, your sausages, again, you need a large, expensive facility in order to produce these things that, by the way, I have the skill of doing. So I could take this hog, raise hogs, you buy the hog from me, and agree to let me slaughter it, and then let me process the foods. And by the way, most of that's illegal unless I have about 5 different business operations that I can't afford at this point. But I have the knowledge and capability of doing that if we scale these regulations down so that somebody trying to get in at the entry level can afford that. We wonder how we can create jobs. Well, there's food is an important thing, and we talk about a lot of food deserts, and particularly here. There's not thousands and thousands of acres like there is in the Midwest for growing a lot of crops and being a large farmer. But one thing we can do is, there's a lot of folks out that don't have a job right now that would probably love to learn how to raise different food. And there's a lot of small farmers around that have wisdom, knowledge that we can pass on to others. And if we can break that internship so that it's not overly regulated, I'll give you an example. As I understand it, I would have to pay a minimum wage to somebody to come out just to learn from me. And we just don't make enough money on a farm for that, particularly on a small farm. We need to have education funds available for those interns. So if you would be willing to pay for a guy to go to college, and maybe they're not interested in going to college, or they see other opportunities, then allow them to use some of those educational assistance funds to learn something. There's really not a college for learning small family farms. It's really scaled to industrial agriculture, and I don't think we have those facilities around here, so you're going to go out of state to use those. So let's find a way to make that happen, and I have a lot of ideas I won't go on tonight about in that. Living conditions. If all of a sudden now I become an education facility, then I got to provide those interns so many square feet for their living conditions, and that's not necessarily conducive for me to provide that. Some good news things, particularly in my realm. There's a wild ramp market that was recently founded about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now, and that has been an outstanding market for me as a small farmer to use as a resource. And we created that right here in Huntington. We're doing so well, and there's some folks here that have helped us with that, and I appreciate that. We're actually moving to a bigger facility, so we need to keep that up and promote those local little markets. There's also a veteran to agriculture program that I'm working with right now. I'm also a veteran, by the way, been in the Army for 25 years, and I'd just like to encourage you to expand that program. One of the current resources that they're doing is helping veterans get into beekeeping. So we talk about around the country, we don't have enough bees, we don't have enough honey, the pollination factors and so on. And there's actually a small program going on right now to help little folks, those of us that are veterans, to get into that program. And I thank you for everything that you guys have done to make those kind of programs happen. Encourage you to increase it, expand on it, and keep that up.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity. My name is Elizabeth Spellman, and I'm the director of the Food and Farm Coalition in West Virginia. We also work closely with the Value Chain Cluster Initiative, which supports food businesses, small and growing food businesses. And I just wanted to make a comment to encourage folks to think about ways, state legislation or other kinds of policy ways that would enable more viable food businesses in the state, because they are very sustainable practices. They've added a lot to local food economies over the past few years, and we're just seeing food businesses and farmers markets and all those related entities growing greatly over the past decade.
I'm Rhonda Dorch, Bluestone Mountain Farm and Soap Company. I moved here in 2011 to expand my business and live in a quieter, more peaceful place where there's more of a sense of community. I came from a really busy city where you just kind of got lost in the shuffle, so I wanted to be more of the shuffle instead of lost in the shuffle. And I just felt the strength here with support from agriculture and just the local people that just kind of wanted to bond together and make things happen. And I just felt that as just a visitor when I came. So I moved here by myself with a trailer load of animals and found a great spot to land in Summers County. My business is goat's milks, essential oil soaps, and specialty soaps, and I do pasture-raised poultry. My focus is the meat. As far as the pasture, as far as successes, let's go back. The goats, and that business is just bubbling right along. I have found the support from the Conservation District helping me get established here. That's been a success, is just the support that I came here and got. They helped me get water that I didn't have on my farm, and they helped me set up a lot of things about my farm that just wasn't functioning. And then support groups like the Greenbrier Valley Grown Initiative that helped get my product out there and just helped me feel like a part of the community and learn who the people were here, because I didn't know anybody when I landed. So I expanded the second year with the pastured poultry, and I hear that was one of my issues and I see that now they are changing that to the limit. My limitation here for going faster and further is the transportation issue. I'm a single farmer. If I take time out of my day to try to take things to Charleston to customers, there's my day loss. Who's at the farm helping me? If I send stuff to Union to another buyer, co-op group, there goes my day again. So I'm left with very little time on the farm trying to get this food where it needs to be. I'd like to expand with other produce and other things, but the food that's my problem, is getting my product to the buyer. I'd like to see if there's a way that we could get some help, some funding maybe for even veterans, for disabled people. There's so many people that could help me on my farm that really want to work, and that would be very therapeutic for them too, that could help, or transport product as a group of farmers, a truck that would come and pick our product up at the farm and take it to a central location and then go from there further. There's so many farmers here that want to expand, but they just we don't have the pieces together to do that.